Okay, this is video number 2. Okay, so people might ask, am I really into spirituality and telling people that they should love each other unconditionally and that kind of thing? The answer is yes and no. I did start getting into spiritual stuff, metaphysics, but not mainstream religions because I'd already been raised Jewish. But in my early 20s, in the 70s, I met some people who were into things like theosophy and concepts that I think are very crucial to try to understand what life is all about. I mean, I'm not trying to say I can tell you this is exactly what life is all about, but the two concepts that when you get into Eastern religions and other teachings related to those are karma and reincarnation, which I think are very important to try to understand, and they are not easy to understand. But I do believe karma, as I said, it's very complicated. I'm quite certain that 98, 99% of all the people walking around have lived a certain number of lives. It depends on where they're at in their soul evolution. And that's one of the main things, if I get put on the world stage, one of the main things I teach, and there have been a lot of great teachers around since the 70s, maybe even before then, teachings like this, but I tend to keep it kind of simple. You're a soul having a physical experience, and you keep reincarnating over and over and over again, maybe hundreds of times, depends on how quickly you evolve, and then you get to a point where you don't have a lot of karma left, and then you graduate from this, what is oftentimes a very difficult bunch of incarnations. The physical life can be very difficult and very challenging, especially when you get into spiritual teachings, because the world is totally materialistic, almost totally materialistic. It's not only things, it's the belief that the physical is all there is, which is completely and totally bogus. There are many worlds and many levels of reality beyond the physical. I don't know what has gone wrong in our time. It is just such a materialistic age. Science has gone, whatever the great thing science has done, the totally materialistic bent of science is complete nonsense. The way they reject God or anything beyond the physical is utter nonsense. Say it again. And I don't know if that can be changed. In the 19th century, science was actually much more open-minded to things beyond the physical. There were honest scientists of integrity who would research these things, research things about ghosts, and they would go to seances, and they would at least have an open mind about these things, whereas, the Big Bang and the theory of evolution are just atheism. That's pure and simple, and they are completely and totally mistaken. There are many worlds, non-physical worlds beyond this world. Let's talk about God a little bit. And I don't claim to be so much of an expert, but one thing you got to understand about God is one, and yet God is a multiplicity. And sometimes some things just there is something, but then the contradiction is true. There is a one God. It's a one God concept, but there are many levels of God, and I know this firsthand because I've been in situations that at different levels of what we think of as God, they operate in committees. I call it God by committee because that's what it is. But there is one overriding God concept that runs through everything. We're all one. We're all part of the one. And it's a concept that's obviously very simple to say it, but you need to realize it's all one. But God is there are many gods on many levels. And again, you're a soul having a physical experience, and we are in a very bad time where it's just, you know, the world is just, everything is just physical, and be afraid, fear of death. You know, as I'm making this video, this disaster with this virus, I'm not sure what the truth of it is. I know some of it is a blatant scam. Not sure what. I know, I hope one day the truth comes out, but the fear, the people's gut level of fear reacting to this virus, whatever it is just has blown me away, that people have just not been able to say, hey, it's just a virus. And if you get it, you'll deal with it. And most people who get it, I know it's the overwhelming majority of people who actually get the virus. And I know I've taken science classes, so I'm not sure what it means when you get it, but it doesn't affect you. A virus can't do anything until it gets inside your cells. It has to take over your cell because it doesn't do anything outside of the cell. It doesn't really live. But that people have knuckled onto to this criminal control that has been foisted upon us is just, I mean, without even questioning it, has just blown me away. If you understand that you're a soul having a physical experience, you have a different perspective about these things, as I have. And it just so happens I have a respiratory problem that I've had for years. And I went to the Ukraine in March of 2020, and without getting into a long song and dance, I had a very bad cough, and I think it was caused by one of my heart medicines. And my translator, and I speak Russian very well, but I had a translator for this thing that I was doing, and she happened to have been an emergency room doctor. She didn't renew her license or something like that. See, because over there they don't make so much money. And she thought it might be one of my heart medications, and I got off of it, and it seems to have made a little bit of difference. But in the hotel, I was coughing constantly, and I was in the lobby a lot because we were doing different things, and it was just convenient to stay in the lobby. And they were really concerned that the other guests were going to, you know, be irritated and think I had the virus. So they kept taking my temperature. But the short of it is, I wasn't afraid of the virus. The virus isn't going to get me, and if it does, I'll deal with it. And I have just been absolutely blown away at the fear of people, this gut level of fear, and just trying to put it in perspective. Look, I know nobody wants to die unless they want to commit suicide, but you know, you are going to die one day, and you have to face it. And that's another thing about a soul having a physical experience. You try to come to terms with it, which I did in my early 20s. So that's another thing, and I'm going to keep these videos short, so I'm going to stop right here on this one.